Assalamu alaikum all. Welcome everybody to our fourth and last episode of Risale-i Nur discussion on the Quranic truths about the Creator, God's attributes and divine unity. And we are going to talk about lordly perfection from the second ray in the Risale-i Nur collection. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Third fruit. This fruit looks to conscious beings, and particularly to man, humankind. Through the mystery of divine unity, among all creatures, man may attain to the highest perfections and become the most valuable fruit of the universe, the most perfect and refined of creatures, the most fortunate and happy of animate beings, and the addressee and friend of the world's creator. Indeed, all man's perfections and his lofty aims are tied to the affirmation of divine unity and find existence through its meaning. But if there was no unity, man would be the most unhappy of creatures, the lowest of beings, the most wretched of the animals, the most suffering and sorrowful of intelligent beings. For together with his infinite impotence, his innumerable enemies, his boundless wants, and endless needs, he has been decked out with a great many faculties and senses, so that he feels innumerable sorts of pains and experiences, countless sorts of pleasures. He has such aims and desires that one who does not govern the whole universe at once cannot bring about those desires. For example, man has an intense desire for immortality. Only one who has disposal over the whole universe as though it was a palace can answer this wish, who can close the door of this world and open that of the hereafter, like closing the door of one room and opening that of another. Man also has thousands of desires, both negative and positive, which, like the desire for immortality, spread throughout the world and stretch to eternity. It is only the single one who, through the mystery of unity, holds the whole universe in his grasp, that by answering these desires of man can cure the two awesome wounds of his impotence and want. Moreover, man has wishes for tranquility and ease of heart, so insubstantial, secret, and particular, and aims connected with the immortality and happiness of his spirit so vast, comprehensive, and universe that they can be answered only by one who sees the subtlest and most imperceptible wheels of his heart and is not unconcerned and hears its most inaudible secret voices and does not leave them unanswered. That one must also have sufficient power to subjugate the heavens and earth as though they were two obedient soldiers and make them perform universal works. Also, through the mystery of unity, all man's members and senses gain a high value, while through ascribing partners to God and disbelief, they fall to an infinitely low degree. For example, man's most valuable faculty is intelligence. Through the mystery of divine unity, it becomes a brilliant key to the sacred divine treasures and to the thousands of coffers of the universe. Whereas, if it descends to associating partners with God and to unbelief, it becomes an inauspicious instrument of torture, which heaps up in man's head all the grievous pains of the past and awesome fears of the future. Also, for example, compassion, man's most gentle and agreeable characteristic, if the mystery of divine unity does not come to its assistance, it becomes a calamitous torment, which reduces man to the depths of misery. A heedless mother who imagines she has lost her only child for all eternity feels this searing pain to the full. Also, for example, love, man's sweetest, most pleasurable, and most precious emotion, if the mystery of divine unity assists it, it gives mindful man the expanse and breadth of the universe and makes him a petted monarch of the animals. Whereas, if I seek refuge with God, man descends to associating partners with God and unbelief. Because he will be separated for all eternity, from all his innumerable beloveds as they continuously disappear in death, love becomes a terrible calamity, constantly lacerating his wretched heart. But vain amusements causing heedlessness temporarily numb his senses, apparently not allowing him to feel it. If you make analogies with these three examples for man's hundreds of faculties and senses, you will understand the degree to which divine unity and the affirmation of it are the means by which he may be fulfilled and perfected. Since this third fruit too has been very well explained in detailed manner, with proofs in perhaps 20 of the treatises of the illuminating lamp, I'm sufficing with this brief indication here. So apparently humankind is a microcosm of the universe, and as such it has such a high value in the hierarchy of creation. Yet the connection with his creator, if the connection with his creator is cut, then he loses all those value and descends down enormously. Since this theme is about the fruits of belief and lordly perfection, humankind seems to be at the epicenter of the creation. How would you describe the man's situation in the universe, Harun Hocam?
I want to have Colin Hoca first, then I want to just step in, if possible, Colin Hocam. He's not connected?
Yes, Colin Hoca seems to be connected. I'm gonna
Okay, maybe while he's muting. Yes, as you say, so we are humans at the epicenter of the cosmos. And I know there are some philosophers or there are some people who denies to be so. So again, it is the perspective, even from the beginning, even this becomes a hypothesis that we are at the center of the universe. But regardless, we are at the center of the universe. We can see that actually in our realm, in our world, we are to control, we are to choose, we are to just make decision on anything, just make use of resources, earth, fire, you know, the basic resources, gas, information. We are to make use of these resources to turn into decisions, so-called wise decisions to make. However, we are not robots, right? We are very different. We have emotional dimension, which gives suffering in the first place. Even it is not easy, since we have emotions, consciousness, Vicdan, and we have conscious, we have sure, you know. So any tasks we take, any decision we make has a reflection on our various dimensions. And obviously, this is a part that I love in second ray, that relates human's condition to what's going on, and especially Said Nursi's own take on this, because the part that you didn't read, right, just tells why he wrote this in the first place. So he has a story behind. He's a human, and he makes his story. He lives inside the life. He feels the pains of the life. So out of the pain of the life that he feels, he just finds remedies from Quran and shares with us. So this is so intimate, and this is so delicate relationship that he builds with us. And I totally agree, and I just feel these emotions and the things. And moreover, this remedy really coming from the Quran is so striking and remarkable. If I can, you know, calibrate myself accordingly. But I guess this is just an opening. We can just go paragraph by paragraph to just go deeper.
Okay, why not?
I think Colin Hocam is unmuted.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, so I had a few problems. Yeah, I was muted for a while.
Hocam, would you like to talk about this now, or shall I continue?
At the end of the passage that you're reading, Ustad Nursi tells us to make analogies, similar analogies. I think, yes. If you make analogies with these three examples for man's hundreds of faculties, he was talking about three particular faculties which are quite central. I think he was talking about intellect, compassion, and love, all of which are capable of embracing infinity and embracing, if not the absolute, they can embrace immortality within their own frame of reference. And I'm thinking of an analogy which has become quite standard, really, among lovers of Rumi. Rumi talks about the child in the womb. And he says that if you were to tell the child in the womb that outside there is a world that is broad and long, and a sky that is high and blue, and rivers and mountains and fields and streams, the child may reject all of these as being too outlandish, too impossible a prospect, because the child is used to the dark and just drinking blood through the tube in its stomach. It's quite comfortable doing that within those three darknesses. And we, in a sense, if we are not regenerated by belief, we are living in the darkness of al-hayatud dunya, the lowest kind of life, the lowest form of life. Because like the child in the womb, we have so many faculties which are not made just for this world. If you think of the child in the womb, the child has eyes, but there's nothing for it to see. The child has a mouth, but it can't use it to eat or to speak. The child has legs and arms, but its movements are very, very restricted. It has secondary teeth, which it's never going to use to be able to chew the beautiful foods that are prepared outside. So there are so many faculties, organs, limbs, abilities that the child has been given in order to use when it comes out of the womb. In other words, in the world beyond the womb. So if we make an analogy and we analogize between this world and the womb, we are at the moment in the womb and we are waiting to be born, in a sense. And we have many, many faculties which we can't use here because they embrace infinity and they embrace eternality and immortality. The wants, the desires, the imagination, the abilities, all of these things are endless. And yet we live in a very, very restricted world with a very, very few number of years, small number of years. Now, if the child in the womb, if no child in the womb were ever born, all of those faculties would be pointless, would be futile. They wouldn't be wonderful at all. They wouldn't be manifesting attributes of perfection at all. They would be, in a sense, exhibiting futility and uselessness and pointlessness and stupidity, actually. And it's the same with us now in the womb of this world. We have all of these abilities and faculties which can embrace the eternal. And yet, if we were to end after this life with death and nothing beyond death, then all of those faculties, all of those abilities would be completely wasted and completely pointless. So that's the analogy I wanted to draw, and you can come to your own conclusions. We have to realize that we are created for immortality, and that's why we desire it. You know, we're given a stomach. That's why we desire food and drink. We're given eyes. That's why we want to see. That's why there are things to see. We also desire immortality and everlastingness, and that is why there is an eternal world. Sorry, I think I muted myself then again.
Thank you, Kolnajam. I think my connection is weak here and it causes noise. Can you hear me?
Also, is it good time to talk about the balance of the faculties? This part especially also takes me to the balance. Again, we are coming to the realm of Esmail Husna. Like if I exaggerate on my compassion or if I exaggerate on my intellect, these are disastrous in a way. So it kills me. I mean, if I overthink without balancing it with other reflections of Esmail Husna, looks like still I cannot, be on the straight path in a way. So my reading of the universe, my reading of the happenings would deviate from the ideal, to say. Of course, that's by this setting. I mean, the creator just set us with importance and want, as stated here. So this two wounds actually will require that we will never ever be able to hit or touch the ideal state of reading as is the universe, the occasions. But at least it is our job, what I see, to come closer and closer to the balance of reflections of Esmail Husna. So I can balance my compassion with my intellect or vice versa. And similarly, as Colin Hocam beautifully mentioned, we have thousands of them, and we can understand that from the beginning, many of them cannot find correspondence in this world. So we are longing for eternity from the beginning. Even I'm quite sure I will be wanting so badly, if I'm to live longer and longer, still this longing for eternity will not diminish any little. So I just want to say that it's kind of balancing here. Looks like the examples he provides is from his practice. Actually, I'm sure, as Said Nursi mentions here, he has a huge compassion. He has a huge love for the created being, and he suffered from this. And since he suffered from that, he found the balance, through the suggestions from the Quran, through his understandings from the Quran. Yeah, that's to say.
Colin Hocam, you early on mentioned last week that the Quran's God is not an absentee landlord, leaving humanity to its own devices. I think that's a great point. And Ustaz Said Nursi gives three analogies concerning the intellect, compassion, and love. These are some of the faculties of humankind has. And I remember that, for instance, during the Age of Enlightenment in European history, some genuine scholars or philosophers preferred deism as more rational than Christianity or Christian tradition. But as we see here, Ustaz Said Nursi points to different faculties of humankind. Humankind is not just composed of intellect, and we cannot, become self-reliant unless we attach ourselves, our souls, to the Creator, and that deficit is huge, and that refers to our emotional well-being, right? And here, as we read in the third fruit, when we attach our souls to the Creator, that void becomes fulfilled. Would you like to talk about this a little bit?
I'm not sure what more I can say than, you've already alluded to the fact that however whichever side we come down on ideologically, and so-called unbelievers, the fact is that they are created to worship, and they are created with the two wounds that Harun mentioned, the ajz and faqr, and they will try somehow to compensate for that. And what people do, because they desire the eternal. They desire the divine names. You know, we are bathing in divine names. We are surrounded by divine names. You know, we are wrapped up in divine names and attributes. They permeate every single aspect of our life. And if we do not make dhikr of these attributes, and I'm not talking about sitting around in a circle in a tekkeh, saying Yahu or Ya Halim, Ya Sabur, endlessly, although that may work for some people. The point is, we have to acknowledge these attributes don't belong to us. We can't steal these attributes. When we try to steal these attributes, that is when we create havoc. That is when we create hell on earth, in our attempts to create heaven on earth, because we do attempt to create heaven on earth, because that's what we desire. If we're not believers, we believe in heaven, but we believe in a heaven that can be constructed here. And if you look at all of the big currents, including the Enlightenment current, the Enlightenment was an attempt to create heaven on earth by basically making the human intellect the central object of veneration. So all of these people that have these, that bring about these currents, these are death-defying currents. It's death anxiety, mortality anxiety, and love of immortality that drives all of these currents, including the Enlightenment, including all of the currents which began with the Renaissance in Europe and ended in the secularization of Europe. All of these are actually dictated by deeply religious desires, and that's the desire for immortality at any cost. Yes, no one is immune from this. No one is immune from the desire for immortality. The problem is, and we go back here to Harun's discussion of balance, there has to be the right balance, so there has to be the right criterion, the right ma'yar, the right furqan. And if you have the furqan of revelation and tradition, religious tradition, then you actually do have a way of balancing all of these different things. It's kind of a juggling act. You know, someone who stands there on stage with 3 or 4 objects and juggles them, then that's what we have to do. But we have to have the right criterion for that. And that right criterion is divine revelation. Without that criterion, then the nafs becomes its own criterion. And that is what actually galvanized and generated the Enlightenment. And that is what drives every other current, political current, cultural current out there. There is this paradox of a desire for immortality, but the inability to understand how that immortality is gained. And we know that the only way that it is gained is through subjugating our nafs to the irada of the creator. That's the only way that it's possible. And by making dhikr, in other words, bringing to mind at every instant, because God isn't an absentee landlord, bringing to mind at every instant the divine perfections and the fact that they don't belong to us. And those who don't do that are described in the Quran as criminals. They are mujrimeen. And also there is a severe punishment waiting for those who do not make dhikr. In other words, those who do not bring God's attributes to mind at every moment.
Thank you. Yeah, reason alone cannot bring happiness to humankind, right? We need to also find we need to find a balance between intellect, spirit, and with our faculties, turning those faculties toward the creator. Otherwise, every generation since the ancient times of Greece, maybe I can say, try to find eternity on earth, as you say, a kind of paradise on earth, but yet every then and now they fail. And in our age, which is highly secularized, and highly worldly, still we have fruits of civilization with us every day, but we have now enormous spiritual or psychological problems no one could have imagined in the past, given to the enormous stress we have in our daily life and great problems on earth. So I'm going to continue here. What impelled me to this truth was the following feeling. At one time, I was on top of a mountain, a high mountain, through a spiritual awakening powerful enough to dispel my heedlessness. Death and the grave appeared to me in all their stark reality, and transience and ephemerality with all their painful representations. Like everyone's, my innate desire for immortality surged up and rebelled against death. A fellow feeling and compassion in my nature, too, revolted against the annihilation of the people of perfection, the famous prophets, the saints, and the purified ones, for whom I feel great love and attachment. It boiled up angrily against the grave. I looked in the 6 directions, seeking help, but I found no solace, no assistance. For looking to the past, I saw a vast graveyard, and to the future, darkness. And above, I saw horror. And to the right and left, previous situations and the assaults of numberless harmful things. Suddenly, the mystery of divine unity came to my assistance and drew back the veil, revealing the face of reality. Look, it said. First of all, I looked at the face of death, which I feared greatly. I saw that for the people of belief, it was a discharge from duties. The appointed hour was the discharge papers. It was the change of abode, the introduction to an everlasting life, and the door leading to it. It was to be released from the prison of this world and to fly to the gardens of paradise. It was the occasion one enters the presence of the most merciful in order to receive the wages for one's service. It was a call to go to the realm of bliss. Understanding this, with complete certainty, I began to love death. How is this possible? How could one love death? So, Harun, how is this?
Yeah, that's the mindset as we come further. I think, of course, assuming proper aging, after some age, even I start feeling pain from my back, from my head, this and that. So the health goes away. And when it goes away, actually, physically at least, we have trouble some. And this trouble just gives us longing, to just cut off in a way. And I think this is one of the implications. Even it's Allah's mercy that just designs decay in such a way. I mean, if I were not to age, and if I were to have no sicknesses at all during aging, then again, I would be so ignorant to understand the meaning of death, as described here. So one example from the physical domain or physical condition of us. Therefore, I think, yes, by any means, the Creator, the most merciful Creator, just reminds us that that is our reality, and it's the ultimate reality to say so. And it is something to be loved because he preferred, the Creator preferred death to exist. As the Wombe example of the Rumi, so by my ignorance, I will be, denying that, and I will want to stay what I stick to in this life. But we know from this analogy and many similar occasions that separation for us in this life and the ultimate separation by extrapolation, should be something to be loved, definitely. I think that's the normal. if I don't love, then it is me who needs to calibrate all, the faculties that we talk here. And then with the calibrated faculties, I think definitely I should love death.
Yeah. Our lives seem to be like a specific narrative of each one of us, right? And Ustaz Nursi describes death as a kind of discharge from duties and a kind of a good end to our lives, like a husnul khatimah. And looking through such a perspective and reliance on God suddenly brings tranquility to our hearts. How magic it is, right? Kolnoja, what would you like to say about this?
I just hope that this is being recorded. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because what Harun has just said, I also wish he would write these things down and develop them. Death. Death is like walking into a room you haven't been in before. It looks dark from the outside, but when you bring the light of faith to it, all of the things which in that room appear to be monstrous and scary shapes and, just the absolute unknown, turns out simply to be the furniture of the next realm, the intermediate realm. This is theory, of course, this is theory, but Harun is right, and Harun, I think, is much younger than I am. But he's right. When you get to a certain age, bits start to break down. And this, I think, is one of the miracles of divine creation. And this is completely against what our detractors would have us believe. They say that the human body breaking down is sign that our creator doesn't know what he's doing. But actually, it's the absolute opposite. The fact that things break down necessarily break down, because otherwise we would just carry on. And death is part of life. Death is parasitic on life. We need death, because without it, life would be meaningless. The fact that the human body is created with such wisdom, and it's also created to break down in a wise way, even though we say, oh, this poor person has cancer, and we know that cancer is just these cells multiplying randomly. And no, they don't multiply randomly. Nothing exists randomly. They multiply with a wisdom that is peculiar to cancer. And it's nothing to be scared of. Cancer is a being. Now, okay, it's a being which may take our loved ones, but if you have belief, then you will know that your loved one cannot be immortal in this realm. Because Harun also said in a discourse from about 20 minutes ago that, if he lived for a long, long time, he would still want immortality. If you lived for 100, 200, 300 years, you would be desperate to die, I would imagine. Because if you are living 100 or 200 years and you are slowly decaying and getting more and more bedbound and unable to do things, you would be desperate for a break, because we are in this world and we are constrained, And just think of those people, also going back to dhikr, those people who escape from making dhikr, Allah makes their lives, what he says, dhank, and that means tight and constrained. So unbelief gives you a very, very constrained view, a constrained life, as though you're in a straitjacket, those jackets that the police put on criminals so that they can't move. Now, believers are prisoners in this world. Even with faith, we are constrained, because we know that this is not our ultimate reality. So you can imagine what it must be like for an unbeliever. So death, as Ustad points out so many times, death is a relief and a discharge from duty. And you know, I can imagine, you see sometimes, you know, the oldest person in the world, they bring on this poor person, you know, 117, 118, and sometimes they can speak, other times they can barely move. And you're thinking, I don't want to be in that position. You know, death is far more inviting a prospect than to just waste away in an armchair in you know, in a corner in an institution. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit now, but this Harun made me think so much when he started talking about death. Death is to be welcomed. I'm not saying I welcome it, and I'm not saying I'm ready. You know, it's not in my hands, but I'm not ready, and I would run from it. But I'm sure there will come a day, and I hope there will come a day when I will run to it, inshallah.
Okay.
So beautiful. Hussein, can we elaborate on this directions? I always wondered in Risale-i Nur in general, since there are many people expert in reading Risale-i Nur here, anybody can help. But my question in general here to put forward is, how can we conceive these 6 directions, up, down, you know, right, left, front, and back? I think Nursi gives some clues for some, but not all. I mean, if there's a practical relief for us to discuss, I would love to discuss these directions.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too when I read this, you know, similar passages in the Risale-i Nur in the past. But
sorry, there was also a
good
hand.
idea. Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Sorry, there was a hand that went up. Is it Ismail? But I'm not sure whether he still wants to ask a question. Sorry.
He read his. Brother Ismail, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I want to read from one part of the Risale-i Nur, which is the about the death, I think, which is from the second letter. Sorry, from the first letter, which is the second question. Here, Ustad is saying, he says, verses like the following in the Old West Quran, the criterion of truth and falsehood, said, who creates death and life, that he may try you, which of you is the best in conduct? That's what make it understood that death is created like life. It too is a bounty. Whereas apparently death is dissolution, non-existence, decay, the extinction of life, the annihilation of pleasures. How can it be created and a bounty? This is a question. Then he says the answer. As was stated at the end of the answer to the first question, that is a discharge from the duties of life. It's a rest, a change of residence, a change of existence. It is an invitation to an eternal life, a beginning, the introduction to an immortal life. Just as life comes into the world through an act of creation, and a life comes into the world through an act of creation and a determination. So to departure from the world is through creation and determining, through a wise and purposeful direction. For the death of plant life, the simplest level of life shows that it is a more orderly work of art than life. For although the death of fruits, seeds, and grains appear to occur through decay and dissolution, their death is in fact a kneading, which comprises an exceedingly well-ordered chemical reaction, a well-balanced combining of elements, and wise formation of particles. This unseen, orderly, and wise death appears through the life of the new shoots. That's to say, the death of the seed is the start of life of the shoot. Indeed, since it is like life itself, this death is created and well-ordered as much as its life. Moreover, the death of the fruits of living beings and animals in the human stomach is the beginning of their rising to the level of human life. It may therefore be said, such a death is more orderly and created than their own life. Thus, if the death of plant life, the lowest level of life, is just created, wise, and ordered, so also must be the death that befalls human life, the most elevated level of life. And like a seed sown in the ground becomes a tree in the world of the air, so a man who is laid in the earth will surely produce the shoots of an everlasting life in the intermediate realm. As for the aspect of death that are bounties, we shall point out four of them. The first, it is a great bounty because it is to be freed from the duties and obligations of life. We become burdensome, and is a door through which to join and be united with the 99 out of 100 of one's friends who are already in the intermediate realm. The second, it is a release from the narrow, irksome, turbulent, and agitated prison of this world and manifesting an expansive, joyful, trouble-free, immortal life. It's to enter the sphere of mercy of the eternally beloved one. The third, there are numerous factors like old age, which make the conditions of life adverse and show death to be a bounty first period to life. For example, if together with your very elderly parents who cause you much distress, we are now in front of you, your grandfathers in all their pitiful state, you will understand what a calamity is life and what a bounty death. Also, for example, it is understood how difficult are the lives in the conditions of winter of the beautiful flying insects, the lovers of the beautiful flowers, and what mercy are their deaths. The fourth, just as sleep is a comfort, a mercy, a rest, particularly for those afflicted by disaster and the wounded and the sick, so too is death, the elder brother of sleep, a pure bounty and mercy for those struck by disaster and suffering tribulations, which drive them to suicide. However, as is proved decisively, many of the world
Is Hussein still here? I don't know.
He is having problems, Abi.
Okay.
Connection problems. You can go ahead, inshallah.
Yeah, yeah, I said thank you, Ismail, also in the chat, but it was too long, to focus and understand.
It would have been interesting if we'd had the actual text.
Right,
I think
it's difficult
I mean,
to
his
follow.
intention, actually, Ismail's, I'm glad he did that, because there is a tawafuq there, because today I was thinking about, I was looking at the trees and I was thinking of the seeds. When you put a seed in the ground, the case of the seed case rots and falls away and remains in the ground. And the seed is what pushes through the new shoot. So death is for us exactly the same. We are put in the ground, and the case around us, the case around our nafs and ruh, that's the one that rots and decays, and then out of it the new shoot comes. So there was a tawafuq in that, but I agree it was a bit too long and we needed the text really. But thank you, Ismail.
This wrote, what was the name of the book? What is a spoil? Maybe spoil. What is the English word for çürüme? Being rotten, spoil. So
Decay.
whatever, decay. I don't know. There's a book. I just attracted my attention. I need to go back and check what the name was, but the meaning is decay. The name of the book, and I think it is lovely. And I'm quite sure the author should be talking about, the beauty in decay, or the benefits of the decay. And of course, this is very connected to also, as you always say, systems engineering. In systems engineering, actually, if you are going to design a product or design a process, from the beginning, you need to design sub-process that is for the decay, because you cannot just produce a product and just leave it away. There should be strong plan, strong program,
Is this what they call built-in obsolescence, Harun?
That I'm not familiar with. I'm not sure. But the point is, from the beginning, from day one, from the conceptual design, all the decay procedure should be well defined by engineers in order to produce a product. Yeah, existence by conception from humans thought, should design decay procedure. Otherwise, existence doesn't make sense economically or from any perspective. That is something, for us to compare as well. So decay or death. So it is very inherent with the systems we design as well. So we design that, we want decay to be in our system design.
I think you're absolutely right. And built-in obsolescence, I remember it's a line from some music many, many years ago. when they talk, you know, like in my grandmother's day, when they made things to last, and they would last for years and years. But, you know, in my parents' generation, they started making things, and then they were not too bad. But now in our generation, they make a refrigerator or a washing machine, and it's built to last just a few years so that you replace it. So it's built-in obsolescence, but I don't think that's what you're talking about, because that's rather
well,
that's
we
a
can
rather
discuss that also.
shady,
It's
that's a
nice.
rather
Yeah.
shady kind of thing, is to build in the obsolescence. But I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is, yeah, that's not one, but even we can make sense of this obsolescence, you know, I would say. But yes, the decay is engineered by the creator, and it is so perfectly engineered that we call it decay, but in fact, decay is another creation. Like a lot of bacteria is employed in this decay. So kind of bacteria is producing an art. Like when we look at the lime or lemon, it's the decay, or it's being spoiled, you know, procedure. It's just so, how to say, so elegantly decays, you know, dries, goes away, smells, you know, for us to take an action. But there is no gap over there. All the creation, all the engines of bacteria working, you know, in harmony. And that is saying something to us as well. And it is very beneficial. If there were no decay, no spoil, we can imagine what would happen, you know.
We wouldn't be able to digest our food, would we, if food wasn't engineered to decay and to not maybe to rot, but to break down in our stomachs. We wouldn't be able to eat anything. If things didn't decay, the whole earth would just be piled up with stuff. We wouldn't be able to move.
Yeah, that's very, how to say, thoughtful, philosophical. Like Allah put this mechanism that it is going to work antagonist, like day and the night, you know, life and the death.
Yeah.
There has to be this dichotomy. We are given, we are set. We can never think of any design which is going to lack one or the other one. So that is so deep, you know. It's
what Ya Momit, you know.
Momit. Yeah. Hussein came back to life.
Yes. Like I have connection problems. I'm a guest tonight. It's our my mother-in-law.
Can I ask a question maybe for the last
yes, go ahead, please.
5 to 6 minutes to discuss. What I understand from this writing, there is no solution in between. Like for my intellect, either it is going to be a useful tool or it is going to be a harmful tool. What I understand, there is no state in between. Either it's going to help me, it's going to work in the way that it is intended to work. It's kind of worship of the intellect, or it is going to be disobeying for what it is created for. Then it will just create miseries. It would just produce some stuff which really hurts me, and so on. And same for other faculties. For my compassion, either it's going to serve in a beneficial way, or it is going to just burn my heart and it's going to just kill me in a way. Is that so? I mean, do you agree? I mean, I feel like there is no way in between.
I think there's a limbo.
Sorry, go on, Hussein.
I think there's a limbo in between, as Ustaz Nursi talks about this in short words, right? The guys who catches a branch of the tree falling down, he suspends in the air, but he tries to, you know, please, you know, by trying to take the fruits in front of him. So it's neither situation, nor
Is that possible?
his escape
Is that possible? Is limbo possible, really? I mean, I think what I got from what Harun is saying is that when we think about Ustad's virtue, ethics, philosophy, when he uses Aristotle's golden mean and the Ifrat Tafrit, either your quwa, your powers, your power of intellect, for example, is either in Ifrat position or it's in Tafrit. There's no limbo. There's no in between. If it's in the correct position, then as Harun said, either it works in our favor or it doesn't, because if it's not in the middle position, it's going to be either in Ifrat or Tafrit, and either of those are bad. So I don't see where the limbo or the neutral position comes in. I don't think that's possible. Allahu Alam.
You are right. What I mean is that it's an illusion for the unbelievers or for those who do not, subjugate themselves to God or do not pray. It's a kind of temporary illusion because they try to numb their senses, as Ustaz talks about that here, but it's actually an illusion that goes against their own benefits, either in this world or in the hereafter.
Maybe also another parameter to think is what also here in this text defined as something that makes us drunk. Like if I cheat myself, then maybe I cannot be aware of the situation of my intellect. Like it gives me really harm, but I don't feel it because I take some drugs, which makes me drunk, So there's another parameter not to be able to judge about that causes us not to be able to judge on what's happening with me.
We have a couple of minutes left.
What about these directions? I think we could not talk about directions.
Yes.
Is it the skies and the earth, up and down, and past and future? Obviously, he mentions here. But what else? I mean, or how do you understand? How do you unite these directions? Or how Nursi pursued these directions in the first place? I'm really curious about that.
Please feel free to talk about this. Does anybody have an idea about this?
It comes to my mind regarding these directions. So studies mentioning, so the earth, the globe of the earth, so the down part, the upper part is the skies, the heavens. The front is what is what we are facing, the future, and the back is the past. It comes to my mind, and one is regarding every individual, and the other one is regarding the whole humanity. So the backside, in one meaning, so the whole humanity. When we leave this world, what we leave, so it is backside at the same time. Yes.
What about right and left?
Yeah. So right is individual past. Left is individual future. I understand like that. For every human being.
That's interesting, Cezmi. It's kind of geometrically, it makes sense. Like you're putting yourself in one of the axes, and all other dimensions respond to all other people. Yeah, it's a nice, I think, approach. Thank you.
Ismail, would you
You're
like
welcome, Abi. We can get Colin Hocam, your perspective. How do you get it? Right and left, and back and front, upper and
I
down.
haven't given it enough thought, really. I've often wondered what it can mean, but I need to read several iterations of it. I think he uses the sixfold direction thing in several places. So I need to read more, I think, before I can give any thoughts.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We came to the end of our episode tonight. Colin Hocam, would you like to make a dua, or Jesma, would you like to do that?
I'll leave it to Jazmi Bey.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. Oh Lord, forgive us and or our brothers and sisters who preceded us in faith and put not in our hearts any resentment toward those who have believed. Oh Lord, you are so kind and so merciful. آمين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.
Also, Fatih Atalay Abi had a comment in the chat that I see. He addresses 17th word, for vital love, death.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Fatih, for reminding that text. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.